Hey guys, here with another weekly draft video on the Neat Zone Magic channel. We're doing another Battle for Zendikar draft. I'll be back with you when the first pack opens. Alright, here is our first pack. We have a Sunken Hollow, which it's always worth checking how much those things are worth. I think it's probably not worth enough to preclude me from taking another card out of this pack, but I mean, they do provide some value in this format because they make it easier for you to splash. It's worth about 2 tickets, which is certainly relevant, but I really like Fire Mantle Mage. I like Silent Skimmer, and I like Royal Spout, although I don't like taking a gold card usually with my first pick. Zulaport Cutthroat has been better than I expected him to be, but I don't think I'd take him here. It's either Silent Skimmer or Fire Mantle Mage for me. They're both very good cards, but completely different archetypes, basically. So it's going to kind of depend on what ends up being open and so forth. Could also just take the Sunken Hollow, I guess. But I think that I'm going for the Fire Mantle Mage. No, well, yeah, we'll go for it. If it ends up being open, then great. If it doesn't, then that's okay too. We can get a second Fire Mantle Mage. That's pretty open. I mean, it's pretty early, but I think that's what I take here. There is an early Evolving Wilds too, which is good, but I'll take Fire Mantle Mage number 2. I think he's one of the better allies with Rally anyway in this format. Well, I guess all the allies with Rally are in this format, so it's a little redundant to say that, but I think that was the best card in that pack in general, so I'm happy to take it. Have a while to wait for the next pick, but this is a good foundation for an ally deck. Red-white or red-green is where we'd most like to be. I think red-white's generally more powerful, but if you can get a Tajuru Warcaller or two, especially when you also have Fire Mantle Mage, things can get pretty awesome for your deck. But we'll just have to see what happens. Okay, Grove Rumbler, worth thinking about here. It's pretty good. You know, it's a 4-mana 3/3 with landfall, but there's also an outnumber. And it's just a good removal spell, especially if we end up in the ally deck. And this also means we're not committing to any second color just yet. Could also think about the Tajuru Stalwart, who's an ally, but I think outnumber's better, and that's what I'll take here. It's good removal, and staying, you know, open is probably a good idea. I mean, sometimes what ends up happening if you try to stay open is you can go mono whatever color you're in, although it looks like that's not going to happen here. I'm not a huge Retreat to Valakut fan. I do like Windrider Patrol. It's probably the best card of those left in this pack, and that's not the color packed with the most allies, but we don't necessarily need to be the ally deck. You know, Fire Mantle Mage is good, even not in an ally deck, so we could go blue-red, which is mostly an Eldrazi deck, but, you know, Windrider Patrol is just too good to pass. I mean, Eyeless Watcher is also fine, especially if we actually get a Tajuru Warcaller to go wide, but there's no guaranteeing that, so I think I take the Patrol. It's just the best card left in this pack by a lot, I think. Not a huge fan of this Retreat in Limited. Ruin Processor is good, of course, but, you know, I'll be able to pick up one later. Windrider Patrol might not be the case with that. Okay, that being there means that archetype, the red-black archetype, may be open, and a Gideon's Reproach being here is a pretty good sign White's open. There's also a Slide Runner and a Champion, but Gideon's Reproach is a really good removal spell, and I think it's what I take. Don't see any blue here, so even though there's a pretty late Windrider Patrol, it may not be that open. Canopy Vista, huh? I doubt you're worth anything either, but, well, yeah, you're worth about 2 tickets as well. So you can get a Slide Runner, a Sentinel, or a Canopy Vista. The Vista is tempting, actually, for our actual deck, because we could splash green and play the Tajuru Beastmaster. And, I mean, Slide Runner's good, and Ghostly Sentinel, those are both pretty good cards. Smite's good, too, but I think Canopy Vista's possibilities, plus the fact that it's worth a few tickets, it makes it the card that I want to be taking right there. So Windrider Patrol may be on the outside now, but there's no guaranteeing that. But blue definitely hasn't seemed open, even though this guy should not have been around late. He isn't the most synergistic of cards. I guess he's best in the blue-white deck, which has all the flyers, but he's not so great outside of that. Here's a Beastmaster who's all about going wide and also has Rally, which is relevant. There's also a Coral Helm Guide who's a pretty good ally who can make dudes unblockable. The Beastmaster I like, but I think I can probably pick him up later. I'm not clear yet on whether or not we'll be blue, but I'm not also not clear on whether or not we'll be green. So I think I'd rather have the Coral Helm Guide. It's just, it's good to have the low drops, especially in this deck, and it's good to have allies. So if that's where we're going, then I think it's good. And we may not even end up running Canopy Vista, but we didn't give up anything incredible when we took our Canopy Vista. So I think it was worth taking, especially being worth about a couple tickets, which is always relevant when you're drafting and trying to draft as many times as possible, which is generally what I do. So let's see what we get here. Okay. Nothing incredible. The Great Horn's fine. Inspired Charge is fine, but I think I like Valakut Invoker more than either of them. It's not an ally like Reckless Cohort is. And Undo Great Horn, is good, but it's not. I've been kind of underwhelmed with it a lot of the time. I think the Invoker's, just a decent 3-drop. And he has, late game utility. He's a much better late game top deck usually than the Undo Great Horn is, because he can actually start just, nuking your opponent's face or their field. So I think that's pretty good. Wind Rider Patrol. I haven't actually gotten to play it. I think I had another draft video where I drafted it and ended up not playing it. So I'd like to actually play it. It's clearly a very good card. So it'd be nice. Okay, here we don't have much of anything for us. We may be splashing green. We may end up running green. Brood Hunter Worm is a solid card, and I think that's what we take here over the sideboard card, Volcanic Upheaval. I think I'd rather just have a Brood Hunter Worm as, potentially being played in our deck. Okay, there's a Beastmaster that came back around. I think I take it now, and I could just move into red-green and splash white, because green has a lot of ways of going wide, which are some of the things we saw, the lots of Eldrazi Scions, and green also has the most pump effects, although white actually has some too, like that Inspired Charge we saw. So we'll see where we go. Okay, if we end up being a 3-color deck, which is easier with Canopy Vista, then I think Tajuru Stalwart's pretty good to have. Unnatural Aggression's been super underwhelming for me, so I think I'm going to take the Stalwart over that. Another ally. Looks like we probably will again not be running our Wind Rider Patrol, which is pretty sad for me, but, we could end up red-green and splashing white for our Reproach. I wouldn't mind getting back that Landfall Trample guy, but I doubt he's coming back to me. The gold card for red-green. White hasn't seemed super open. I mean, we saw a Ghostly Sentinel, but we'll run Canopy Vista no matter what now that there's a Stalwart in our deck. It's just better than a Forest, basically, if we end up, in the green-red deck that it looks like we may end up in. Green is a kind of a weak color in this format, but I think it's at its best when you can go really wide with the Eldrazi Scions and have sort of an ally deck. Fire Mantle Mage plus the Druid Beastmaster is pretty good little combo. We can take Call the Scions here, speaking of going wide. I don't mind it. And an Oran Reef Invoker I also don't mind. It's a good 2-drop. It's nothing incredible, but I'm going to take a basic land here, and I'll take another one. That Royal Mage's Trick is actually better than most people think it is, I think. But we don't need it in this deck. We're already, if we're going to run 3 colors, one of them's going to be white, so it's not going to be blue, I don't think, especially because we have Canopy Vista, although it could be. Wow. That actually goes in our deck, and it's the first Expedition land I've managed to open. Expedition anything. I guess they're all lands, right? So we're definitely taking that. It'll be good for our deck. It'll make it easier for us to go multiple colors, and it's also worth 6 tickets. So pretty happy with that. It would have been nice to open one during release when they were worth like 1 million tickets, but definitely Stomping Grounds what we take here between the value it gives us, in the actual tickets realm and also in our deck. Other good cards here, though, that could, like if Stomping Ground weren't here, what would I take is worth asking. And the answer is that this pack, it really isn't very awesome for us if it weren't for the Stomping Grounds. Vestige of Emrakul is pretty good, but it's not, it's better in a colorless deck. Encircling Fissure can be pretty good. Rot Shambler could be good if we pick up more Eldrazi Scions, and Ghostly Sentinel's fine too, but nothing is incredible in this pack. So definitely take the Stomping Grounds, and it's actually good in our deck. Okay, Serpentine Spike is a card I've had a lot of success with, and I think it's probably what I take here. It's just a pretty big bomb. It has a huge effect on the board. It is kind of expensive at 7, and Touch of the Void's here too, which is a good removal spell. And so is Grove Rumbler, who would be nice for us to get. Not to mention McKindy Patrol, who could make it into our deck as well. But I think the Spike's just the best card in this pack. Although, actually, Coastal Discovery is probably better, but we're not in blue, and I don't think we're going to end up there. So we'll just take the Spike. Lithomancer's Focus is a good trick, but white's definitely going to be our tertiary color. So counting on it for a trick isn't a great idea. I think I'd probably just take Ondu Champion out of this pack. It's not super exciting, but it is another ally, which is relevant. And it gives our dudes Trample, which is also relevant. So, and it's a 4-mana 4/3, So Summit Prowler with upside, and Summit Prowler, granted, was in a different format, but Summit Prowler was pretty legit. So, all right, another Brood Hunter Worm. I do like Dampening Pulse a lot, but we're not really in that deck. There's also a Core Castigator, but again, if we're just in our third color is white, then we don't really want to be having a 2-drop that's not removal, because playing him on turn 2 isn't going to be a guarantee at all. I think I just take another Brood Hunter Worm here. I like it more than the Cohort, whose setback is too big of one, and the Brood Hunter Worm's just a decent-sized creature. I could also take Sandstone Bridge, but I'd rather have like a basic Plains and get an Evolving Wild somewhere than anything else. So, Bane of Balaget and a Lumbering Falls. Man, we could go all out on the Converge theme at this rate. It's not worth a lot anymore. It was for a while. I do like Lumbering Falls, but, if we were really in a Converge deck, I'd probably take it here. And it looks like we might have been able to based on the number of lands we've gotten that can produce multiple colors. And, I could take the Lumbering Falls. It would open me up to Splashing Blue, but that still wouldn't let me play Windrider Patrol. So, I think just taking another Ondu Champion is probably better. Bane of Balaget's also very good, but I've been a little underwhelmed with it because he can so easily be double blocked. But you still get a 4/1 usually when that happens, so that's relevant. But I think I just take another Ondu Champion here. Inspired Charge could end up being very good in our deck, but there's another Beastmaster, and I just like him better than the Charge for the most part. It's a constant effect that our opponent has to worry about. Okay, there's a Blighted Gorge, which is certainly relevant. There's also a Skyrider Elf. If we'd taken that Lumbering Falls, we'd be all over that. It's either Looming Spires or Blighted Gorge, I think. And I think I'd probably go with the Gorge. If we had a lot of landfall, Looming Spires is a lot better, but we don't have that much. We definitely need to get some more low drops in some point in the near future, but we'll just take a Blighted Gorge. It's removal in the late game, and that's always good. All right, well, this pack really is not what we're looking for. None of the cards in it are anything we want. Demon's Grasp is probably the best of the cards left here, and we're not in black. Swarm Surge is good if you're in that archetype. Don't really like Natural Connection, but I guess it's what I'll take here. Maybe we end up opening something that really makes us want to go multiple colors. Wow, Forerunner of Slaughter's still there, huh? I guess that archetype's open. The red-black colorless one. Vestige of Emrakul's still here too. Probably just take Cliffside Lookout here, though. It's a low drop, which is something I kind of want. Giant Mantis is fine, but our deck's going to want to be bashing more often than not. Would be a good sideboard card, but I think Cliffside Lookout giving us another way to pump the whole team. Hey, Grove Rumbler came back. I'm pretty happy with that. We will take a Grove Rumbler here. Plummet is a very good sideboard card, so I'm going to take it. I don't really like Seek the Wilds that much. I don't really like it. Reckless Cohort's okay, but I think I'm just going to take an island. I'm intent on getting as many of those basic lands as possible. I'll take a Territorial Baloth here. There's some chance it makes it into our deck, although it seems unlikely. I think this archetype's considered to be kind of weak for the most part. Playing Cliffside Lookout, I kind of forgot that I'm only splashing white at this point, so it may not be the best thing for our deck now that I'm looking at that. At this point, like, we don't even necessarily have to splash white if we don't want to. And we could just run the Canopy Vista because it adds white. I mean, it can add white, you're right, and Tajuru's Stalwart. That matters for Tajuru's Stalwart. So I don't know what's going to happen. It'll depend on what we see in the last pack. We'll take a Mountain over that guy. And a Looming Spires. I'm pretty happy with that. Definitely works in our deck. We do have one landfall guy now, too. I mean, it's good even if you don't have landfall, but it's at its best when you can be swinging with like a 4-3 McKindy Slide Runner. Oh my god. Kiora. I'm opening some cool stuff in this draft, but I wish I'd taken that Lumbering Falls now. I'm definitely taking Kiora in this pack. I mean, it's hard for me not to. The Evolving Wilds is tempting. It would make us splash easier, but Kiora's a mythic, a really cool one. And I can try to play it. We do have natural connections, so we could try to get blue into our deck somehow. As good as Kiora is, it's pretty tempting. We're definitely taking her, even if she doesn't make our deck. This pack, it has an unnatural aggression, which is starting to look pretty solid in our deck because we have so many creatures with high toughness and high power. Sky Spawners, of course, a very good card, but we're not, in that deck. And Evolving Wilds, like I said, would be nice, but we're not giving up a whole lot by taking a Kiora here, and that's what we'll take. If we could get blue into our deck, I'd be pretty happy. I mean, she's not the most powerful commander. Planeswalker, that's what she is. But she's pretty good. I would have rather opened Gideon, which would have been hard to fit in our deck too, but wouldn't have been as hard because we have a Canopy Vista. So, all right, Aligned Hedron Network is pretty good, but there's also a Touch of the Void, and we don't have a huge amount of. There's also a Sylvan Scrying, which if we really want to run Kiora, we could force that into our deck. But Touch of the Void's a good removal spell, and one I'm happy to have. So I think that's what I'll take here. Over a Shadow Glider, which is okay, and a Tunneling Geopede, which is also okay. The removal, I think I like a little more. More Waste to Eldrazi Scions would be nice for us. Okay, there's a Snapping Gnarlid. Also a Grove Tender Druids, which we could actually play in our deck thanks to Canopy Vista. That's probably what I take. It's another way for us to go wide. Fertile Thicket also wouldn't be bad since we're trying to do some fixing. There's a Call to Scions, which could help us go wide, but Grove Tender Druid's probably better in this deck. So we'll take that. Yeah. Ooh, Tajuru Warcaller. That's one of the things we were looking for. Stone Fury's really good too, but I'd rather have the Warcaller here. It's close between the two, but the Warcaller really puts some, oomph behind our deck that it doesn't have without it. Kiora's probably not going to make our deck, which is a little sad, but she is really cool. So, yeah, I think this is probably more or less what our deck is. I'd love to pick up some 2-drops, maybe even the crappy one that has to attack, but wouldn't be the end of the world. Eyeless Watcher might be what's best in our deck. We have 3 effects that pump our whole team now. So I think Eyeless Watcher is better than Tunneling Geopede for the most part. Curve is kind of high, which I don't love, but I think I'll take the Watcher here. It's just better. We also have Serpentine Spike, and it'll make it easier for us to cast that. Okay, here's a Stonehaven Medic. Here's another Stalwart. It's probably what I take here. Would be nice to have some 2-drops, like I keep saying, but if we don't have them, it's not the end of the world in this format. This isn't Magic Origins, but this is probably like the least 2-drops I've ever had in this format, so that's worth mentioning. Come on, guys, give us an Evolving Wilds or something, or a Fertile Thicket even. I would take one of those now and probably try to cram Kiora into our deck, which I know wouldn't be ideal, but Kiora is awesome, so. And getting to player would be nice, but we're already stretching into a 3rd color, which means we can probably run Gideon's Reproach now too. And we may actually run. Does Natural Connection only get basics? Yeah, it does. We may run it. I don't usually like running it, but making sure we get our white for Gideon's Reproach is kind of relevant. Swell of Growth's a pretty good trick. There's another Brood Hunter Worm, and there's a Sandstone Bridge. But the bridge doesn't really, whites are a 3rd color, so I don't really need that as a white source. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. We do have one spell that triggers, but then we have nothing to search for. So, I'm kind of thinking Swell of Growth just for the combat trick of it. We already have 2 Brood Hunter Worms. I think that's plenty. So, yeah, I'll take a Swell of Growth. Ooh, Lifespring Druid. Now we're talking. Maybe we can make this happen with our Kiora. That is pretty nice, and it is what I'm going to take here. Giant Mantis is here. Natural Aggression is looking, pretty decent with our deck, although not incredible. Giant Mantis is a good sideboard card, if nothing else. Retreat to Kazandu is okay, but I think it's either a Natural Aggression or Giant Mantis. Boiling Earth is a good sideboard card, too, worth mentioning. But, yeah, I'm thinking a Natural Aggression. Yeah, that's what I'll take. We'll see how that works out. Call the Scions, sure. Probably not going to run 2 of them, but you never know. And a Snapping Gnarlid is a good 2-drop. One that I passed earlier that I was lucky to have come back to me. I think I'll take an Ondu Greathorn away from somebody. It's good enough that I don't want someone else to have it. Don't like Earthen Arms. I don't think we want Ruin Processor in this deck. I will take a couple basic swamps. So, can we make Kiora work in this deck? The answer is probably no without Evolving Wilds, but I'm going to try my hardest because she is pretty good. Drawing us cards, untapping things, and then her ultimate is just completely ridiculous, where she puts 3 8/8 octopuses onto the battlefield, and you get an emblem that says whenever you play a creature, it fights another creature. So, it's pretty nice. We are really dense at 3 and 4, that's for sure. But we'll see if I can swing this. I mean, having the Canopy Vista and the Stomping Ground does make it easier to splash than, if we didn't have them, obviously, because they give us 2 sources of 2 of our colors. So, but yeah, I'll stick Kiora here for now. Actually, you cost 4, don't you? And we'll take a basic mountain. So, we have a pretty good ally deck. One that tries to go wide a little bit, but we didn't get nearly as many Eyeless Watchers as I would have liked, I don't think. But we still have Tuduru, Warcaller, Beastmasters, and lots of Trample and Menace. So those are pretty good. I'd like to not have to run Natural Connection. It's just not that good. Here, let's get these lands out of here. So we need to cut a lot of cards, like 5. Yeah, 5 cards, which does put Kiora under a lot of pressure. I just don't think we can swing splashing for her. I think we run the Reproach on the splash. I mean, it's good even late game. But we have a Canopy Vista that makes it easy. I just don't think we can make Kiora happen, even with our Lifespring Druid, who's going to stay in the deck because it does add white for us, which does give us another white source, which is relevant. But it's just not that good. Let's group creatures separately. Call the Scions. We have 18 creatures in the deck, and it's not even counting our Call the Scions, so we're already a pretty creature-dense deck. We only have a couple ways to really start going wide on our opponent, but we can also just play a bunch of creatures. And I think I'm okay with that. I think I cut at least 1 Call the Scions and maybe more. We really only have 1 combat trick and Swell of Growth, which I think is okay. We do have a couple dudes with Landfall, and it's even better with them. So I'm thinking I leave Swell of Growth in. Call the Scions and Swell of Growth are both cards I'm thinking about taking out, as is Unnatural Aggression, so I'll keep those in the back of my mind. The question is whether I want to remove some creatures, and I think Valakut Invoker is okay, but I don't think he's incredible, so I think I'm taking him out. Does make our curve even higher though, which is definitely worth considering. So maybe I just take out something like Brood Hunter Worm, who's just a dude. Yeah, I think I'll take him out. Having the curve a little lower is better since our curve's already a little high. But I think I do end up taking out Call the Scions and Swell of Growth here. They're just lower power than the rest of these. Although, I mean, Unnatural Aggression is usually not that good, but I think it's good in our deck. All these guys 4 and up are really good at fighting, and True Stalwart's not bad at it either if you can play it for 3 colors. So I think this is it. We didn't get quite as much removal as I'd like, but our deck's just going to try to run over our opponents with, all of our allies and, good creatures that we have. So we're going to combine groups and sort by color. And we have Blighted Gorge, which I think we still try to get into the deck because, as I just noted, we're kind of low on removal. And it is a colorless land, which is kind of annoying. But we have Stomping Ground, Canopy Vista, and Looming Spires, and Lifespring Druid to sort of help us deal with the fact that we have Blighted Gorge in our deck. So we definitely want more green than red, but we do have a lot of double red, which is worth mentioning. And Stomping Ground and Looming Spires are already in our deck, so it's 2 red sources. We have 2 green sources and 1 white source already in our deck as well. So that gives us 8 red sources, 9 green sources, and 2 white sources. Well, 3 once you count our Lifespring Druid. I think I'm going to go down to 6 and up to 2. Just because, well, no, we have Lifespring Druid, so I think we're probably okay running that much white. We don't have any way to search for it, which is annoying. We didn't even get a Fertile Thicket, which would have been nice, but I think this is okay. Our mana base could be better, but we definitely can't make Kiora work. But happy to have her for commander purposes and other things. So I think this is the deck. We had a pretty good draft just in terms of the amount of money we drafted between Stomping Ground and Kiora and Canopy Vista. So we're basically already paying for almost another draft with that on its own. So that's pretty sweet. Anyway, I think this will be our deck. We'll see how it does. I think it can be pretty strong, especially against opponents who have a little bit slower of a deck. And I know our curve's a little high, but if we can, play a bunch of these guys, 3 and 4 drops, just imagine Tajuru Warcaller, Ondu Champion, Fire Mantle Mage all in play at the same time, and things will get pretty ugly pretty quickly. And we have a lot of allies, so we're probably gonna make that happen at least once, and it'll be pretty awesome. So anyway, this will be our deck. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll watch the 3 matches I play with it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.